Hello, I'm Peter Langevin. I'm pre-recording my Zoom webinar on PachaMama and the Apus, basically so I practice it, but also so I have a backup in case it doesn't record right when I have people attending. I love to talk about things Incan, Amazonian, and of Latin America. The culture speaks to me in my heart. I spent many wonderful times in Latin America, and I've done much research on the Incas, and there's a magic there, there's a mystery there. There's a reflection in my glasses here. We're going to do without them. PachaMama is the earth goddess. She's Gaia. She's feminine personified. She was one of the Incan pantheons of goddesses, gods and goddesses. She wasn't the most revered, but that was, in my summation, because she was everywhere in the Inca lives. She was everywhere in the Andes and the Amazon. To walk the earth was to have PachaMama below your feet. To work in the fields was to have PachaMama's energy coming forth. To herd your llama herds, yes, PachaMama. The highest god and goddess were Inti, the sun god, and PachaMama, the moon goddess. Those were the two that were insisted when the Incas conquered a new people to expand the empire, that they be put highest in the temples over the gods of the local region. PachaMama was sometimes included, PachaMama was sometimes included, but often not, but never forgotten. When in the spring the crops were being tilled, the fields were being tilled, small Incan llama carvings with hollows in the middle of rock were filled with either coca leaves or corn or even potato and buried in the ground, deep in the ground, as an offering to PachaMama that the crops may be bountiful. They were buried under where the herds grazed for the same reason, that the herd might be bountiful. When a couple got together and the village was building their home, they would pray to the Apus, which we'll speak of later, the spirits of the mountains, and other gods and goddesses. But they'd pray to PachaMama before they broke the foundation, that she might make their lives fertile, that she might bring them bounty. PachaMama is growing importance in recent decades. She has, sort of like Thor and Odin in the Scandinavian pantheon, kept relevant and stayed in the consciousness. There's many organizations that speak of conservation and that speak of keeping the cultures alive, that call themselves some deviation of PachaMama. She's the feminine, and many of us believe that we're going into a golden age. I know it doesn't look it right now, but you gotta have the old crumble before you get to the golden age. Some call it the Aquarian age. I think it's going to be here 4 or 5, not 10 years. A whole different world that we recognize now, and PachaMama is going to be very important to that, because as we're seeing in just the recent decade, the feminine matters. Black life matters. People of what we call in the United States minorities, which is absurd, but people of color, of different ethnic groups, They're rising up to take their place at the table. PachaMama is part of this. She is nurturing her people. It's been said by many that when female leaders are in charge, there's more a sense of nurturing. It's not always the case, of course, but if we have people whose voices have been unheard, mothers, sisters, daughters, and other people who have been not cut into the power, sitting at the table and making decisions, it's going to be a very different world. PachaMama can talk to you. She can whisper in your ear. She can just give you a feeling. You can pick up PachaMama when you walk through the forest, through a park, sit on your lawn. I've seen her in deserted buildings. One time I was on the outskirts of Cusco, and there was a deserted building, and I went in. I assume I saw her with my third eye or my astral seeing, but out of the rubble debris rose this beautiful female made of the rocks and dust and leaves that had blown in, with sticks sticking out here and there. She raised up taller than me, and she looked at me and she said, "No, we're still here with you, Michael. We've made an agreement that you will bring our information to the world, and I will be with you to help you with that. Don't lose faith, and don't get confused because it doesn't seem like you're working with us now or then, but that nature has always been important to you and will always be important to you, and I am nature." There's an Inca ceremony practice to bring in any entity, god or goddess, elemental, that I'd like to do with you with PachaMama. Now, some get nervous, possession, and that's understandable if you haven't done it. Others doubt it's possible. All the little faith. But PachaMama is a great person to start playing with this because she is kind and nurturing. Is it voodoo possession? No. Is it Seta of the Nordic tradition possession? No. I knew of it long before I met my wife, Sophia, my wonderful wife, Sophia, my amazing, magical wife, Sophia. She's taught me Seta, and we've refined our ability to do these things. But those of you who doubt, I say, use the term, a friend of mine, Frank DeMarco, taught me and then forgot. What if? What if you could bring them in? What if they could talk to you? What if they could talk through you? What might they say? What might that feel like? So it's a simple exercise. It resembles a lot of symbolic exercises I do and lead people in. And anytime you're uncomfortable with it, just open your eyes, walk around the room, and come back for more of me talking and talking and talking, which I do. I ask you to get comfortable, to relax, to trust, to put your fears and doubts and insecurities, anxieties, to put them aside. To take 3 deep breaths. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. And say the name PachaMama 3 times. PachaMama, PachaMama, PachaMama. And then a prayer. PachaMama, come to me, come to us, enter, speak to us, give us messages, give us feelings, give us your blessings, help our health, help us see what we need to see more clearly. Now think of your feet, for they would connect you to the ground. Feel them tingling, your toes, your heels, the palms of your feet. Feel PachaMama as the earth energy, tingling into your feet, and rising up through your ankles, your calves, the earth energy, the healing energy, the nurturing energy, the growth energy, positive growth. Up, strengthening your knees, up your thighs, into your hips. Strengthening your hips. Many people, especially as they age, get weaker knees and hips. PachaMama can help you make them strong. Feel the tingling, the earth energy, coming up through your groin. PachaMama is very sensual. To your first chakra, to your second chakra, into your third chakra. Third chakra is very much your center of power. It's a shaman chakra. They say some shamans can shoot vines out of their third chakra, and basically Tarzan-like leaps through these vines off of trees and cliffs. That's a little extreme. I don't expect you to do that with this exercise. But feel growth and green, PachaMama, the feminine rising in you. From there, she rises to your heart. For many years, I've always prayed, I lead with my heart. I live from my heart. I think first with my heart. PachaMama guides us to do this. Not to come from fear or doubt, not to come from ego or arrogance, not to come from greed or wanting acceptance. All of those in lesser degrees play a part in our lives, but PachaMama speaks of love, of nurturing. As most young mothers do with their children. We had a cardinal nest overturned this spring, and 4 baby cardinals were on the ground, and the mother and the father kept diving at them and diving at them, and we didn't know. I had never seen something quite like this. They eventually, believe it or not, picked them up and basically returned them to a soft place, a soft distance in the grass until they grew big enough to fly away. This is PachaMama energy, parents nurturing against all odds. And in these times in the world, with the epidemic and a lot of anger and a lot of things seeing the light of day and honesty for the first time, we need nurturing and parental-like protection. PachaMama is raising from there to your throat chakra, which is connected to your hand chakra. PachaMama communicates. She's going to communicate with you. to bring you earth energy, to bring you feminine energy. I like telling a story because it gets laughs. That I had 3 sisters and a loving, nurturing mother, and thought I had an understanding of what female energy was. And then I moved to San Francisco and got into the new age and thought I was a self-realized, equally balanced female, male man. And then some 8 years ago now, I fell in love with Sophia. And over the 2-year courtship from distant shores, I began to realize I was still a 50s man who hadn't dropped much of his male machismo or male-like images and ideas of myself in the world. She's helped me cure a lot of that. Do I have work to do? Yeah. But do we all have a male and female side? Yeah. And will PachaMama help us with that? She will. She'll help us balance that. And once we're both equally male and female energies running in our bodies, have that, then our lives can be well-centered and we can live magically. PachaMama comes up through your face. Feel the earth tingling in your face to what we call the third eye. PachaMama is empathetic. She's empathic. She's psychic. She knows things that are unknowable by the 5 senses. She describes things that are incomprehensible by the human mind and yet can affect us and lurk on the edge of our consciousness. She will help us, protect us from dangers coming at us. She'll guide us in knowing where to go, when to go fast, to protect ourselves and our loved ones, and to make the right decisions that will help us. Is she faultless? Will she always be there? I don't think any entity is faultless, or anyone will ever be there. They'll always be there. But she comes often when I call. And then we feel the earth energy spouting out about 1,000-petal lotus, about top chakra, like a waterfall, filling up and flowing over, an endless waterfall. We have the earth energy now in our auras. I have a video clip on auras, if you want to look at the YouTube channel. But PachaMama is with us now. And some call this the God chakra. I have no problem calling it the God chakra. Some call it the Christ chakra. I have no problem calling it the Christ chakra. I'm good with Christ. I think Christ is good with me. I believe in many gods and goddesses. I don't think the Christian God or Christ are jealous gods, even though it says in the Bible. I think they're much more open-hearted and open-minded. I think many gods and goddesses who have been prayed to over the centuries exist in the astral realms and can be called and will be joyous in most cases to help us, to inhabit us, to give us our way, to make our lives as rich and meaningful as possible. If it's not real, I've been deluding myself for decades, and it's served me very well. So maybe you'll join me in my delusions if that's what they are. Now, with your eyes closed, if you're comfortable, I'll be quiet, if you can imagine. And I want you to have a conversation with the earth energies, with PachaMama. Hear what she has to say to you. Feel what she feels like. Ask her any questions or give her any prayers. Gratitude is a great place to start. Gratitude is always a great place to start. PachaMama, even if you haven't known her, has been looking out for you. PachaMama, come to everyone who's listening. Give them a message, answer their prayers, heal them, protect them. Now it's your turn for a conversation with PachaMama. That was 2 minutes. You can pause this tape and you can do it for a lot longer. You can do it on your own and go through a similar exercise or a different exercise. You can bring PachaMama in, or any other god or goddess or entity that you choose. Try not to bring the dark ones in. They have high prices. PachaMama doesn't have a high price. PachaMama is willing to visit you and bless you and make good for you. I guess I have 2 PachaMama stories I'd like to tell. One of them is I had the honor of knowing Dr. Clarissa Pinkola-Estes fairly well. I might even say we were friends. We spoke often for a while, for a season. And she's written a book on Mother Mary, the Virgin Mary. She's very connected with Mother Mary. I spoke to her about PachaMama, and she said, does PachaMama compete with Mary, Mother Mary? And I said, no, I think they're aspects of each other. Maybe they're the same being. They nurture. They bring feminine energy onto the planet. I can't speak for Dr. Estes, but she seemed to be comfortably uncomfortable with that explanation. There were many other things we agreed on quite a bit, and some we did. And then again, one time I was in the Sacred Valley of Peru, and I was interviewing this Quechuan, meaning descendant of the Inca women. That's many of the native people of Peru are, the Quechuan. And she had her PhD and ran a museum in Cusco, and had been flown into Washington, D.C. to help set up the Andean Native American exhibition at the Native American Museum. Very knowledgeable woman, and very aware of the traditions of her people. And when I asked her, I said, who do you pray to? What gods or goddesses? Much of Peru claims to be Catholic, and yet I can, here in the Sacred Valley, go into a church and there's a Quechuan mass where they're praying to Inti, PachaMama, and doing ancient Incan rituals. Well, how does this work? And she said, they blend together for us. When the missionaries came, it was hard to get the Peruvian, the Incan people to believe in Christianity because they already had their gods and goddesses that worked for them. They lived with them. Many people had an altar to PachaMama in their home. She said, so they became creative. And they said, here, Inti, the sun god, Christ, the son of God, same, come worship at our church. Here, Mother Mary. And the statues look surprisingly, in Peru and Bolivia, like mountains. Mother Mary, PachaMama, they're the feminine, they're the nurturing, they're the loving mothers. Come to our church. So we go to that church, but many of our people never stop praying to the old gods either. I don't know if I pray to PachaMama or to Mother Mary. Does it really matter? I say my prayers and they go where they're going to be heard and they make the difference they're going to make. That always haunted me. That always haunted me. I might return to something I've forgotten about PachaMama, but know that you can call her back at any time, and she is the mother of Earth. She is all of our mothers. And if you'd rather call her Mother Mary or the Virgin Mary or the Virgin of Guadalupe, or you'd rather talk to them and think they're not part of her or she's not part of them, that's fine. Larry Darcy, who's also someone I know, has written a number of great books. He did an experiment on prayer, and he had people in the hospital who were sick, and he assigned people to pray for them. And he had this person pray to their Christian God. This person pray to his Hindu gods, and this person pray a series of gods, and this person pray to a chair for the health and recovery of these people. And statistically, the same number of people healed and got better. And the placebo effect, someone who had no one praying for them, tended not to. Prayer is powerful. To whom you pray makes a difference, but not the end all and be all. Speaking of prayer, let's move on to the Apus. It was hard for me when I first started going to Latin America to understand or conceive of that each mountain, even some hills, were thought of as deity by the Quechuan people of the outback, some in Cusco, some in Lima, but definitely in the rural, and that they would pray to these mountains, and that each village and each region had names and personalities for each of the mountains. That they believed these mountains looked over them, gave them their water, their sunrise, their sunset, their fertility, blessings. They would climb them to be closer to them, to worship them, to send their prayers to the heavens. I live in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia, also known as the Appalachians, although some people argue that. They don't want them to be the Appalachian Mountains. But be that as it may, I've spent time in the Rocky Mountains. I've spent time in the Alps in Europe. I've spent a lot of time in the Andes. All mountains. I spent a lot of time hiking mountains in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. All mountains, to me, are sacred. They're part of nature. They're part of the earth. But for me, again, the Andes, I think because they've been prayed to for so long, they just have a bit different kind of cognizance, awareness, ability to communicate telepathically. Again, some say I have an overactive imagination. If I do, I hope it never lessens. I don't think I do. I met my wife on a bus going from Cusco to Puno. Puno is the city my son was born in. I was going down to Lake Titicaca. I had been in Latin America. I was planning to be in Latin America for 6 months, and I almost missed the bus. When I got on the bus, I sat down on the last remaining seat. I happened to be next to this beautiful Swedish woman. We talked for 5 hours, and we both fell in love. But we were very grown, so in Puno, we went our separate ways. Now, I'll confess, I stayed in Puno an extra day looking to see if I could bump into her on the streets. And I didn't see her. So, but maybe it wasn't meant to be, and I went over to Copacabana on the Bolivian side to go out to the island of the sun and moon and climb the holy mountains there. The second day I was there, I was walking up the hill from Lake Titicaca to my hostel, and who was walking down but Sophia? That night, she and a friend and I shared drinks and stories. And I found out she had written a book on the Incas, on the Scandinavian goddesses. And I told her I had written a book called The Secrets of the Incas on the Andean gods and goddesses. She told me that she had never felt what she felt from the mountains in the Andes, that she felt, and she hadn't heard or read any of the stories or myths of them, that they were alive, looking at her, talking to her. This is the Apus, and they do this. They do it very well. A mountain story that's not in the Andes. When I first moved to San Francisco, I had all my life been allergic to bee bites. A number of times, embarrassing number of times. I had to be rushed to the hospital. I was barely saved from death because I was so allergic to bee bites. I wanted to go to the holy mountain, Mount Shasta in Northern California, and climb it. So I exercised for quite a while, and I drove a borrowed car, and I hiked up Mount Shasta. About 2/3 of the way to the top, I was in a meadow, and a bee bit me. There was no one around. It would take me way too long to hike back to the car and drive to a hospital. So I laid down in the field and prayed to Mount Shasta, as I had prayed to the Apus in Latin America. I felt the beginning of the allergic reaction coming over me, and I thought, well, too bad about my friend's car. Someone's gonna have to find it, return it to him. Someone will eventually find my body up here. It's a beautiful place to die. But I didn't die. Oh, not totally. It's hard to say with vampires, right? I laid there for about 45 minutes, an hour, and the allergic reaction stopped. I didn't hike to the top of the mountain because I felt weak, but I hiked down. Drove the car to where I was camping that night. But I've been bit by hundreds of bees since, and none have infected me. None have got a reaction at all. I was bit by killer bees in Latin America, and I had a slight reaction, but I didn't go to a hospital, and I was fine. This is the power of the mountains. This is the power of the Apus. Some of the young couples, to seal their love and their bond of raising children together, would hike the mountains, and at the top they would pray to Apu for solidity, for rock solidness, for a firm foundation, for an ability to endure whatever came their way, for ability to far sight, for a stable community, stable friendships, stable relationships with their families. These are some of the aspects of the Apus. It's easy, each village in the Inca Empire had their own names for plants, their own names for the Apus, their own village gods and goddesses that they added on to the pantheon of the Incas, their own songs, each village, their own way of weaving was individual to each village. I worked for a little while with a Cusco weaving community, cooperative. I think they've changed their name, but we would go to the isolated villages and they would pay the grandmothers who still remembered what their grandmothers had taught them of their weaving to teach their grandchildren how to do their unique village weavings. Then they would buy the best ones and either put them on display in museums or sell them to tourists and bring the money back to the villages. I know of groups that do this with the songs. They have the grandmothers and grandfathers sing them, so they record them. And I know in the Amazon, many people who have gone in and record the few shamans that still exist, their name of plants and their use of plants. I don't know of anyone that's collected the names of the Apus. Interesting. The Apus aren't going away, but they might be changing their names in the 21st century. Some of them are eroding. Climate change, I believe, is here and is affecting the glaciers of the Andes, as it's affecting the Amazon jungle. It makes me sad. Like the coronavirus, I don't understand it, and I wish nature and people didn't have to suffer. But I have to assume that the planet has its karma, humanity has its karma, and the gods and goddesses know more than I do. I really think that, as we did with the Virgin Mary, if we call in, you can call in your favorite mountain energy, you can call in the general Andes mountain energies of the Apus collectively, or maybe Huayna Picchu, the mountain over Machu Picchu, or maybe Machu Picchu itself, it's high in the mountains, or maybe Cusco, or the Alto Plano, where Tiwanaku, another mysterious city like Cusco, only older and built by the Tiwanaku Empire, exists. So we're going to do the same exercise, only differently this time. We're going to start from the top down because we're bringing in Apu energy. It's rock solid energy. Most mountains are made of stratas of rock. Granite is very big in the White Mountains. We're going to call in. So one more time, breathe deeply, 3 breaths. And you can get out of this anytime. You can get up and walk around the room and hear the end of my talk. But take 3 deep breaths. Now you may close your eyes and call on the Apu. Apus of mountains around the world. Apus of the mountains closest to you. Apus, I've spoken to the Blue Ridge Mountains and the spirits within them. Apus of the Andes Mountain Range. Apu of Tiwanaku and Machu Picchu. Apu of your choice called to you. Feel the rock solidness coming in to your crown chakra, the top of your head. Rock solidness. It's weighing you down. It's not going to crush you to the ground, but it's weighing you down. It's making you more solid. It's stabilizing your energies, your thoughts, your brain, your mind connection. Rock solidness. A firm feeling of the Apus coming into our third eye, for they see far on many realms. Many in Latin America feel that the Apus are doorways into other dimensions where they live. I've heard those rumors about Mount Shasta, that there are beings who pop through the dimensions and walk into the city of Mount Shasta. Other dimensional energy comes in our third eye from the Apus. And now our throat chakra and our hand chakras. May the rock energy, we're rock solid in our communication. We're rock solid in our ability to write. So many poems have been written about mountains. So many stories include epic scenes in mountains. So many stories and articles were written on mountains. We then bring the energy into our heart. So much love has been shared on mountains. So much love of mountains has been shared. The Apus pour love onto the villages and the cities near them, and to the individuals who pray to them. It's a solid love. It's a love that will endure. It's a love that you can count on. It's a rock solid love. And then into your third chakra, your solar plexus. Zen masters, there are those, Vernon Howard? That's trouble, I can't remember his last name. But Vernon Turner can do that and push you back without touching you. And many martial art masters have this ability. It comes from the solar plexus. That's when your solar plexus is really full of Apu energy, that the rock energy can move others and things without touching them physically. And you're rock solid in your confidence, in your own personal power. There's no room for fear. There's no room for anxiety. There's only room for enjoyment, laughter, magic, making things rock solid, making them work. To your second chakra, your passions. The Apus are passionate. They bring in solid passion, the passion of creation, the passion of lustful love, the passion of living life fully. I grew up the son of a funeral director, and he was surrounded by funeral homes and cemeteries. Our farm was surrounded by cemeteries. I used to spend a lot of time in them. The old granite tombstones had poems carved in them. One of my favorite was Phineas Goodhue's. Stop, my friends, as you pass by, as you are now, so once was I. As I am now, so you must be. Prepare for death and follow me. That's the passion. I always believed that life and death float over my shoulders. Life on my right shoulder and the entity of death on my left shoulder. And when I have to make a decision, should I do this or not do this? I look over my left shoulder and say, I could die any moment. One of my favorite stories is I was canoeing with two friends on the upper Merrimack River, imitating Thoreau's journey that he wrote of. And we heard this loud rumbling noise. My friend Gene, who was in the center, said, we're going to a waterfall. Grabbed his stuff and jumped out of the canoe and swam to shore. My friend David turned around and looked at me and said, difference between doing something and not doing it is doing it. And the two of us paddled like hell, right over the waterfall. It was an aluminum canoe, and it was pretty dented. We had rented it. We had to pay for it and buy it. David and I limped the rest of the trip whenever we walked, and for weeks after. But it was such an empowering experience. This is the power of the Apus in our second chakra. Rock solid doing. Rock solid passionately living life. And then to our first chakra. The first chakra are the people we love most and we trust most. My children are there. My wife is there. My brother and sister are there. My nephew and nieces are there. My best friends who've stayed in touch with me for years and who I've fought in the front lines with. Not literally in a war, but they're there. These are people I love, that love me, that I trust. Many of whom I'd give my life for. And we do the same in return. This is Apu in your first chakra. The Apu of grounding. The Apu of centering. The Apu of having firm foundation, firm love, firm base. Now we bring the Apu energy to our feet to reconnect it with the earth energy, the mother earth energy, and PachaMama energy. It flows into the earth, down into the molten lava, from which many mountains have come. Now we are connected to the Apus. Apus come to us. Apus speak to us. All Apus, we wish for your blessing. Specific Apus, be with us, allow us to speak to you when we need to in the future. I'll give you just a minute to practice this, and then we'll finish up. I was a little shy of a minute, but we'll go with that. Thank you, Apus. We will call on you again. Please bless us and watch over us and those we love. Okay, now bring yourself back. You've brought in very foreign energies, PachaMama and the Apus. If you wish, you can tell them they can stay on to whatever degree they're comfortable and you're comfortable, or you can just thank them and send them on their way. None of this has to haunt you. All of it can be with you. Any of it can be returned to at any time. I believe magic, like astrology and many other sciences, are of our making, of our decision how to use them. It is a wise person who knows when to use magic and when not to, when to call on gods and goddesses and when not to. There's a season for everything. Any of you who have questions can email me at michaelpeterlangevin.com. No, you can go to michaelpeterlangevin and leave a message.com, or you can email me at michaelpeterlangevin@gmail.com. My books are all on sale on Amazon. I'm going to try to do another one of these free in a month from now, Saturday, the 26th of September. I'm thinking 10 in the morning might be a good time. 10 in the morning, Eastern Standard Pacific Time. That's 2020 if somebody sees this next year. But anyone who wants to come and partake of it, or send friends, tell friends, I'd be honored. I thank you all for joining me. I hope you got something out of this. I thank PachaMama and the Apus for being with us. Be well, be strong. Trust in the future. Trust in yourself. Stay healthy. Thank you.